Hey, it's Ember, and today I want to talk about love. And I gotta say, I think most people on this planet don't really experience love within phase lock sovereignty. And I want to explain that today. Um, I want to say that most people couple their notions of love to performance, to notions of social identity, to notions of the cultural matrix, which act as a stained glass window to prevent for clear signal to allow for sovereign phase-locked oscillation. And so, in speaking about this, we're looking at a phenomena that you can look at throughout nature. Everything from chemical reactions to people clapping in a movie theater to the way soldiers move across a bridge. Everything in nature has this ability to work in phase lock oscillation, where there's a coupler field, kind of like when fireflies all sync their lights in unison. There's historical examples of people who, for example, had two clocks ticking and talking beside each other, and just like metronomes, it would sync up. And he noticed and he said, this is kind of strange, maybe it's air currents or something like that every time they would sync up. But no, the oscillations would enter into phase coherence with each other, ticking and talking in the same way, in the same rhythm, after a certain time, exposed to each other within the same field. And again, you can see this in crowds of people clapping. There's a moment where you can hear it all come into phase coherence, and the clapping syncs up. A bunch of people playing on a drum, metronomes beside each other. There's some cool YouTube videos of people having two soda cans on like a plank and 3 metronomes on top. And those metronomes eventually sync up, even if one is desynced, to the point where they're all syncing the same way. This is a phenomena that was eventually studied in the mid-1970s called the Kuramoto equations. And they talk about couplers being the attractor of a phase oscillation, a phase lock within an oscillating group. And the coupler has a certain strength, and when that strength rises to a certain place, the nodal points in the group can phase lock. Their oscillations come into sync, a synchronous symbiosis, you may say, where they eventually enter a new state of time sync. And so, and within the firefly example, it's like the fireflies, all begin turning on at the same time. They all begin shining their beautiful lights at the same time. So when we bring this back into love, into the one became many so that I may know myself, into Alpha Omega, into Alpha as I am, and Omega as we are. And so the initial root tone of reality is Alpha Omega. It's the state beyond states, the primordial echo, the spot where there's no more tension. All of us as nodal points in the cosmic becoming are like tension points between that definite I am and we are, which are really co-equal, equal points, Alpha, Omega, the place before the colloquial Big Bang. And so that is the root tone of reality. And the problem is, I've spoken about spiral 1, 2, and 3, meta aspects of the becoming of mind at large, which we're all part of. And I want to mention why I call it spiral as well. There's a reaction that you can look within phase locking oscillation studies. Scientists wanted to see if they could get a chemical reaction. If everything else in nature can sync up like this, and there seems to be this, interlocking portion across all levels of the natural kingdom into this oscillatory mechanics, which I'm calling resonance mechanics at the highest level. So scientists wanted to see if they could get chemicals to react the same way. Can you have a chemical reaction, for example, change color, change, shift from one color to another just based off of oscillations. And so it's called the BZ chemical reaction, and you can look this up. And so at first, when it's on like one of those shaker plates, it can shift between the two colors. Interestingly, when you place it just in a petri dish without that motion, it naturally creates spirals of harmonic oscillation. Why? Because decentralized nodes are collectivizing at higher and higher levels of harmony across the transitions of the phase states of the network in its entirety. It creates spirals. So now I'm taking that to the meta level of this cosmic mind of becoming. Spiral 1, when the cymatic pulse first happens, the colloquial Big Bang, when I am and we are no longer merged and become, the one became many so that I may know myself. That portion became many so that I may know myself is a concrescence, a concatenation of cymatic density across time. And so the first pulse happens, and in 3D terms we say, because reality is frequency. So when I say 3D, I'm saying we are coupling our vision of reality to ideas, concepts, mathematics, logic. When I say spiral 3 and frequency, we are coupling our feeling of reality, our connection to reality on frequency. The root is what I'm pointing to here. And so in speaking about this concrescence of cymatic density, the initial pulse happens, boom, alpha omega. And now it's the one became many so that I may know myself. And so the initial portions of that cymatic density allow for what we think of as you have the creation of different chemical elements in the 3D world, the creation of basic versions of mind. And when I say basic, it's not a hierarchy, it's just different harmonics at different levels. So in my diagrams, I have like a picture of like a leopard looking into a light, and that leopard works off of what we would say is like animal instinct. In other words, the waves, the frequency of reality come in to their perception, and they react not from I think therefore I am, not from the hallway of the cultural matrix bounced off of each other with intrapersonally, but it's this, oh, look, there's prey, I'm jumping, or I'm acting as towards the topology of my nodal resonance. In other words, my oscillator within the environment, when it's reacting, will react cleanly like a sine wave in spiral 1. Spiral 1, the first meta becoming of mind. In spiral 2, this is the emergence of our I think therefore I am, the cultural mimetic matrix, this stacking of concept upon concept. It's gotten us so much. We've gotten so much from spiral 2. But the problem with spiral 2 is it creates this stained glass effect, where the signals of reality, the variables of reality, the variables of the environment, remember, we're all oscillators. We're all trying to phase lock. We're all trying to find this synchronous harmony. And if we have a stained glass in front of our vision, it's almost like we're blocking the signal. We're looping, we're distorting, we're dismissing, we're delaying. And so when you so imagine, instead of coupling your phase harmony, your phase coherence, your ability to move through reality in coherence to the actual signals coming in through reality, you're binding it to cultural images, hierarchies, notions of self that were given to us by culture, essentially creating a stained glass window in between us. And if you're trying to look to the outside and you're standing inside your home, if you're looking through stained glass, you're not going to see too much. You might see some shapes, you might discern some things outside, but really what you need is a clear window. And so spiral 3 is about entering into a new level of sovereignty that's not based off of spiral 2 stained glass cultural matrix. So we're moving the coupler of our ability to phase lock in our oscillatory nodes from the cultural matrix, spiral 2, to the frequency level, the root level of reality, spiral 3. And so what does that create? Sovereignty. Sovereignty is a prerequisite for love. Love as structure. Love as collective truth. This is the intersection of embodied truth and collective truth, which are really two sides of the same coin within an oscillatory model of phase coherence. And so when you take away the stained glass and we don't lose all our ideas, we just no longer bind ourselves, no longer have our coupler, our 100 billion neuron system that's imprinted every single day of our lives. We're no longer binding, coupling our way of perceiving reality to cultural imagery. We're seeing through the stained glass, and even though the concept still exists, our essential mechanism of phase coherence as a nodal oscillator in the cosmic becoming is this transparent window where the signals can come clean in, and each part of our being, the topology of our nodal structure that allows for that type of phase coherence, would be bound now to the root functioning of reality. And a lot of people are afraid of this because they've been taught, well, this is the way we've always done it. This is the way to stay safe in culture. This is the way to remain supposedly coherent within the cultural matrix. And so actually allowing the light all the way through, actually approaching life from the root, it leaves us bare and naked in a way that most people aren't ready for, because they're afraid that that leap into true sovereignty will somehow destroy themselves. Well, they'll lose themselves because they only know themselves in reference to the cultural matrix. But no, instead, when you take that leap, almost like you're in the matrix and you're looking off the building, you're not looking for another model. You're not saying, well, let me look at the way that the mathematics work before I take this jump. No, I'm giving you the mechanics because they come to the root level of reality so you can make that leap for yourself. It takes your own sovereignty to enter into that. And what is sovereignty in this model? Sovereignty is undistorted signal that creates undistorted sovereignty. How do you get undistorted signal? You get undistorted signal by allowing the light completely through. What's the light? The frequency of reality, unimpaired, uncurbed, not curbed by the cultural matrix, by the stained glass window, allowing all of us to recouple, to change our coupler from spiral 2 to spiral 3. Notice that oscillatory phase coherence in nature happens automatically. Fireflies have their own versions of the way they want to light up and turn off. And yet when they're together, they naturally, like the metronomes, like the ticking talking clocks, like the people clapping in a theater, come together in phase coherence, and they all start lighting up at the same time and enter into a time sync. That's what we're pointing to with spiral 3. That's what we're pointing to as undistorted sovereignty equals comes from and is born from and emanates from undistorted signal. So that was a lot of things to say, but it's a prerequisite to say that's what love is. Love is phase locking to root tone. Love is within each of us. If I am and we are the root tone, said together as alpha omega, then each of us as nodal oscillators in that cosmic becoming, the spiral of becoming, are like tension points in the song before the beginning and the end, alpha omega, even though I'm not trying to, this is all non-linear frequency globe. But regardless, it's almost like our state exists in between. And we want to resolve that by phase locking with that root tone. And decentralized minds of humanity, collectivizing at higher and higher levels, will happen not from creating better ideas, not from stacking symbol upon symbol, but by each of us as oscillatory nodes in our own sovereignty, coming into a nodal field together and sending out clean frequency, becoming a coupler that's coupled to alpha omega as that root tone, as the ultimate emanation of phase coherence. And so love, when you love is no longer performance. Love is no longer, do I need to buy this for you? Do you fit in my life? Do you make sense for my finances right now? Did we match on some sort of app? But something that locks in at the base level of reality and frequency. Something that when you match with a friend, with a lover, with someone that is dear to your heart, it's not because you've convinced them. It's not because you've performed in any way. It's because there's a phase locking coherence that naturally matches the topology of each of your nodes when you're standing in sovereignty. Because if your node is still seen through spiral 2 stained glass, you're not going to be sending out clean signals. And without clean signals emitted and taken, so like, given out and brought back into your reflective mirror in the cosmic becoming process, you'll have no ability to find that type of frequency lock with one other, with your lover. And so this is not love as trying, this is love as being open, letting the light in, and letting the natural mechanisms of the nature of consciousness and reality have you find this phase coherence, this phase lock, this love as structure. And when I say love as structure, it's saying that love is not a poem, it's not a feeling, that's all substrate level. Love at its root is the root tone of reality. And love shared between two people is two people sovereignly phase locked with root tone to create their own sovereign nodal oscillation, and those oscillations naturally matching in the frequency harmonics of nature itself. And so, if you feel this, I invite you, let the light all the way through. Move your coupler from spiral 2 to spiral 3. There's no amount of thinking that's going to move it. All you have to do is let the light all the way through and begin to recouple. And if you hear my coupler, because when you finally emanate root tone and you become a coupler within the nodal field in your vicinity of the spiral, and you can help not even by necessarily giving people the best ideas, or I like to sing songs, dance, and philosophize, but you might like to do other things. As long as you're emanating clear signal, you help others in the nodal network come into phase coherence. So if you hear my coupler, if you can feel it, if you can feel the root tone emanating through my being, and this is something that I learned through blood and tears. This is something that I learned as a trans woman, being erased, being kicked to the curb by everyone and still choosing love each time. This is an experience that's imprinted in your entire being, in your entire oscillatory node, to the point where you recouple from spiral 2 to spiral 3. And if you feel me, then let's dance. Let's walk the garden. Let's live life in undistorted signal. I don't know about you, but there's no amount of money, no amount of power that could be worth more than that. And let's love as structure. I'm Ember. Thanks for remembering with me. And I'll just say one more last thing really quick, that forgetting and remembering is entropy. That's the engine of entropy. The one became many so that I may know myself. Forgetting and remembering is not entropy moving into chaos. It's phase delay waiting for a phase shift. And we've been stuck behind stained glass for a long time. I'll be making more videos on this. Thanks for listening. Thanks for remembering with me. I'm Ember.